Hi guys, how's it going? It's Zach Cleaver, and we're going to today talk about Module 14 and the case study that came with it. So to kind of summarize the case, basically we're playing the role of an administrator, and we're evaluating a teacher and going through the process of the evaluation, the meetings, and then the results after that. The teacher has had some trouble in the classroom. She's had some trouble with, seems like, motivation and getting her kids working and on task. And also that has led to the teacher not having near as much control of her classroom, and which has led to us giving a bad evaluation. Through the conferences with the teacher, she seems very irritable and resistant to change, and this is typically not something that can help a teacher move forward. So she's not taking the feedback that we have been giving her. And in our post-evaluation conference, we have come to the terms of non-renewal due to the teacher, and because of that, the teacher has claimed that some bias and some injustice. Some legal and ethical issues that we could be possibly running into. We have done the appropriate time in the classroom, which is good, but due to the fact that different states have different tenure and due process policies, we'd have to look at those. I know in our state, we would be just in the process that we've taken forward, and the fact we have gone into the classroom multiple times for 20 minutes or more. We've had a post-conference and a pre-conference, and we've tried to give a plan of study. Now, one of the problems I feel like that we could run into is due to the fact that the teacher is not actually accepting our feedback. I don't know if that is direct enough in us trying in a nice way to give her feedback instead of writing out a plan of improvement and saying, hey, here's exactly what you need to do to maintain your job, and here's what I need to see in the future. And I feel like the administrator tried to get that across to her, but I don't know how well it was received. And then, of course, in the post-conference, I feel like there was a lot of you weren't in my classroom, a lot of he said, she said. So I think that could come up in proceedings, but as long as we filed the correct paperwork and shown that we were in the classroom for the amount of time that we needed to be and that we went through all the process, I feel like we should be okay. To kind of summarize in one sentence about this case study, administration evaluation feedback is not used effectively and non-renewal happens. And I feel like this is a very simplified answer, but I feel like this might be pretty common in the non-renewal process. Some of the facts, again, we are taking on the administrator role. The teacher is Mrs. Stevens, and I feel like other people that are involved are some stakeholders like students and even the community. The place is a school. It does not give us a rundown of primary or secondary, but I would assume that it is not a private school due to the fact of having to talk about tenure and due process. Typically, from what I understand, private schools don't really have to go through that in your evaluation process on non-renewal. And then the program, it seems like a regular ed class, and the fact that they really haven't talked about any modified classroom behaviors and stuff like that and control behaviors, but they don't really go into that. Prioritizing the information, I think one of the biggest things is that the teacher is unable to take feedback. Through the evaluation process is there for teachers to grow, and to grow you have to take the feedback from your administrator and try to work on it, what you can do better. And the teacher is clearly unable to do that. She's very conflicted with what the administrator is trying to give her. She seems to not be using some self-actualization in the fact that she doesn't think that her classroom is a problem, and that she thinks that the administrator seems like he's out to get her instead of, hey, we're working together to build towards a greater good. This causes a conflict within the classroom and also with the students in the classroom. They're not getting the education they need while also being able to seemingly have control of the classroom whenever the teacher is alone. I know they shape up whenever the admin comes in, which is typical, but it seems like they are kind of now in control of the classroom. This also kind of gives bad feedback to other teachers. I mean, if we're not going to hold teachers accountable on the same level, then that kind of gives this normality to us not being good in what we do. And then again, it also hurts our administration, because if we're not all on the same page and we're not all looking at the same goals and same evaluation techniques, then how are we actually growing as a school? And I feel like this also hurts the community in the long run, because if teachers aren't willing to take feedback and grow and adapt with times, then I feel like we're doing a disservice to the community and the students within the community. So some options that seem to be in place, and the possible consequences of these options of what we could do is, first, we could take no action and just let the teacher continue doing what she's doing. I feel like this really hurts not only the students, but our school culture as a whole. I feel like once you allow people to slip and for students to not be working rigorously and not to be held to a standard, it tends to trickle down and go to other classrooms and to just the school environment as a whole. We could put in a plan of improvement. So even though she seems resistant to improving, we could put in a defined plan of improvement for maybe the following year in which we're looking for this. But again, she seems like she cannot take criticism, which a plan of improvement's not going to help that. So if she automatically thinks that you're out to get her and that basically that she's already a good teacher and doesn't have anything she needs to work on, a plan of improvement's really not going to help. She's pretty set in her ways and really not looking for that feedback back. And then, of course, the last option is your option for non-renewal. And in my opinion, I think that non-renewal is probably the best option. I know that due to non-renewal, you have to go through the process of not only if she fights it, but also, the hiring of a different teacher, the hiring of a different department, culture, stuff like that. So when evaluating our options, again, we had the renewal and non-renewal. I think the pros and cons to this, if you do renew her and keep her, hopefully the teacher grows. I think that's what you're looking for, is growth over time. So maybe she did have a bad year, and hopefully she'll grow into a better teacher in the future and develop some ability to take constructive criticism, but I don't know. She could also develop into a better classroom manager. I think that it plays a major role in this. It seems like the students have a lot of control. That, not to say that younger teachers have a problem with that, but your older teachers tend to be able to, the more years you have, the better classroom manager you are. So maybe after 1 year of working, she'll be better at her classroom management skills. And then, of course, you can put her on a plan of progress. But as we talked about, I don't know how efficient that would be. And then our non-renewal, as we talked about earlier, there are a lot of problems in non-renewal. First is you have to hire a new teacher. You could go through the appeal process, and depending on how rigorous you've been with your evaluation process, it could be difficult. And this could hurt staff demeanor. You never know what her relationship is like with the other staff, what her relationship is like amongst the staff, and whether or not the hiring of a teacher kind of has a trickle-down effect and makes people a little less willing to accept the evaluation progress and the feedback that comes along with it. So then it asked us to choose the best option, and weighing the options back and forth, we did do clearly defined evaluations, which I feel like if you go through the evaluation process properly, it gives you a pretty well laid out answer. And I think that if you consider the feedback that she did not take and that we were trying to give, it didn't seem ridiculous. The feedback didn't. It seemed very growth mindset-esque, and that it's kind of forcing to the greater good. We weren't asking her to jump through hoops. We were just asking her to try little things, and she still was very, very resilient to that. Very much rejected it and had a lot of hesitancy with it. So in my opinion, my choice would be for non-renewal. Again, you have these other options that you could do. I feel like one thing to do is to have an open dialogue with her, which she does make it hard, and really ask yourself, is there room for this person to grow? Is it just a struggling year? Is it a struggling class? Is it a age thing? Can she grow as a teacher, and do we actually want to let her go? I think maybe meeting with another administrator might help, and saying, kind of bouncing some ideas off of them, maybe having them go and talk to her, them look, watch her classroom, observe, can also help kind of get a second eye on it. And then of course, maybe having a conversation with her about the job. Do you like your job? Do you want to stay here? What don't you like about it? What do you like about it? Because there could be some underlying issues that maybe we don't know about her work environment or home environment, stuff like that. And then really being open and honest about the evaluation, telling her that, right now it's not looking good because of these factors. You're not taking feedback, you're not doing this. And I feel like as long as you do that, it does kind of eliminate the possibilities of her staying on and probably helps you make a better decision. As far as implementing our decision, again, I think part of the thing of being an administrator is hard decisions have to be made. And I know it's not the best part about being an admin, but you're looking at the school as a greater good instead of just an individualized classroom. And whenever these hard decisions have to be made, you got to really trust the process of the evaluation and the process of the fact that you're looking for the best candidates and hopefully they're out there. And then really the underlying thing is, and I feel like this is the most important thing when implementing your decision, is what is best for kids. I've heard our principal here at Campus High School talk about it for a long time, is do what's best for kids. And I feel like if a teacher is not willing to change and grow and is losing her class and allowing kids to not be their best, then that's probably not the best for our school. And that's why I would definitely not have a problem with implementing a decision of non-renewal. Thank you for listening. I learned a lot through going through this. I learned that all individuals maybe should not be treated the same, and maybe there are some steps other than just saying non-renewal after an evaluation. Maybe there are some other options. Maybe there's options to talk to them. But in the end, I do feel like being an administrator, you have to come up with what's for the greater good of our school and our students. Thank you.